So today we are pouring the foundation in the kitchen, but first we have to make sure the levels are correct between the kitchen and the living room and the entryway.
That's a bit tricky because currently there is no doorway internally that connects the kitchen to the entryway and the rest of the house. We will be putting that in later, but we have to figure out the level before we even are able to open that door.
Okay, so we have this line that is 1 meter off of the stone threshold. We are going to try to use that as our constant measurement of how we want it to be leveled. So the slow and long way, the hard way of doing this would be to take this line and level it out and transfer that all the way into the house, wrapping around the door. That's the slow and the hard way, but there is a better way.
So the oldest form of finding level, and arguably the best form of finding level, is to use a water level. We have that fancy laser level that we've been using, but a laser doesn't wrap around a doorway. And as Heather mentioned, it would take us forever to figure this out. But water will always find its level, so we can fill this hose with water, make sure there's no air bubbles. We can wrap the hose around the door and find the level in a completely different room. Now you do have to make sure all of the air bubbles are out, so the best way to do that is to siphon the water into it. So Heather's holding one end into a bucket. It'll flow water through the hose until all of the air bubbles have been worked out, and then we will carry it over to mark our line.
Okay, it needs to be up, up, keep going, slow down.
All right.
A little bit more, okay, freeze.
All right, perfect. It's actually right in line with the window here. You're hired, kid.
Terrifying!
You can do about 20 more and then we'll be done, okay?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
So right now we are getting ready to pour the cordolo in the kitchen, which is like the ring of foundation around the room. And in order to do that, we first need to drill some holes into the mountain for some rebar, so we can pound rebar into the mountain so that it will hold the concrete forms that we are putting up around the room.
What do you think? Was that fun?
Yeah.
All right, you want to put a mushroom on it? These are called mushrooms.
Mushroom. Why do we need these anyway?
There you go. We're going to epoxy them into the stone so that's nice and strong.
What's
And then
epoxy?
it's kind of like glue. And then all of the cages that we made, or I think they're called stirrups, we'll put in here with more metal, and we'll make a big metal cage in here. And then we'll fill up that metal cage with cement.
Done.
So there is nothing straightforward about a house like this. There are not straight lines because of the rocks being in completely different positions and sizes. Nothing is straight. So we are doing our best to squeeze as much metal into this small area as possible so that it can be as strong as possible and we can meet the requirements given to us by the structural engineer. So there is not much space to actually squeeze this in. We need to fit in 6 pieces, 2 rows of 3 in this little tiny space. So we're really kind of smushing it in here, but that'll make it extra strong.
These are to tie this into the floor, which again is not strictly required, but it makes the floor stronger. And then we're gonna actually have these sticking up because later on, after the installation and all of that, we'll pour more cement and it'll just kind of tie all the floor together. Heather's officially in charge of tying all of the rebar because I'm quite slow. We're trying to decide if it's because I'm just slow or if it's because her
I think
hands.
it's my little hands, and I do children's hair and things like that. I mean, I twist tie things all the time.
You're saying that because you braid hair, you can now become a professional rebar installer.
I think that I found my calling. Can you do it?
Yes. It's too small of a space. But I have to also work. Just to tie one corner to another. I'm a mess today. Doesn't need to have this big of an overlap. But again, do everything overkill. Forget the math of what you're supposed to have for an overlap, but I'm sure it's like a third of this. We're going 3 times bigger than we need to. But that's okay.
There's too much, then not enough.
Alright, so this wall is going to be particularly challenging. Bend it a little bit here to get around this mountain.
You know, help hold it.
Yeah, if you could hold it there.
I think if I hold it here.
Yeah, yeah.
This one's not cooperating with me today. Alright. Do you want me to say something clever?
Yes, say something clever.
This is the best job I've ever had. I love jobs that I can get into, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm capable of them. And that's what this is. It's like I just get in there, I tie my little thing, and it's good. I don't like jobs that I feel like I'm not strong enough for, or other things like that that really push me, you know, physically. This is perfect.
So I cut the rebar, you tie the rebar.
I'm good with that. Yeah, let's do it.
I think a foundation like this might be a job that some people might be intimidated by, but it's quite actually very easy. We're simply just following the specs that the engineer has given us, and between me, Heather, and Denny, we are smashing this out in just a short afternoon. We're almost ready to pour the concrete.
So we are leaving 2 large openings in the concrete so that we can be running pipes and electricity and all that kind of stuff through it. So we are going to have a massive door right here that goes into the entryway into the living room.
Oh, very good, very good. So we are well past the 2/3 mark of shoveling our sand into cement and bringing it into the house, which I believe brings us close to or a little bit past the 50,000 pound mark. And I'm feeling it. I think we all are. But once we get past this point, this is a big turning point in the house. So in case anyone is curious of how we are making sure we don't fill up the cement too high, we go around with the laser level. We've got our 1 meter mark here, and then we measure down to the appropriate height, make a mark on the inside of the board, And then because that mark is going to be washed away with cement and covered up with cement, we then take nails and we periodically every foot or so. You gotta watch your eyes so you don't get splashed with cement. And then every foot or so we tap nails into here so that as we're leveling out the cement, we can see the finished height that we need to meet. And we just have those nails stick out just a little bit so that you know that you're actually finished at the appropriate height. So I always wear gloves no matter what I'm doing, even if it's something seemingly silly and simple. And here's why. I went to pick up a tape measure that had actually broken, so the metal part of the tape measure was laying out, and I grabbed it to pick it up, and the edge of the metal sliced all the way through my glove and cut pretty deep. Heather's on her way. Annoyingly, I likely will have to get stitches. I'm not going to gross you out with what I have going on here. I just wrapped it up with whatever I could find. I have a first aid kit, but I wrapped Band-Aid after Band-Aid, and it kept soaking through. So I'm just trying to keep it tight for the bleeding to stop. But great timing, because I do have to finish. We've got one spot that the cement is actually too high. So I'm just going to try to squeeze my gloves back on, and while I wait for Heather to come pick me up, gotta finish it up.
You okay?
Yeah, it's are the kids in the car? Or are they?
Yeah, they're in the car. I just tried tape and paper towels because I didn't know what else to bring.
Such a stupid. This is why I always wear gloves.
Oh,
matter
babe.
what. That's so cute. 2 Band-Aids.
Oh my gosh.
Through my glove.
We might have to get you stitches.
Yeah.
Blinding!
Just be careful. That yellow board is very slippery coming in and out.
Yes.
So just be very careful.
Which is why you put the grippy thing, right?
Yeah. I wish you guys could help me, but not in your uniforms. One last wheelbarrow of cement, and then we can go.
Go where?
Go home to stitch me up.
Do you need stitches?
I'm not sure yet.
I got stitches stuck in my head. The song.
The song stitches. I don't think I'll need stitches. I think it's
Is
just
that
gonna be.
bleeding through your glove?
It is.
Oh wow.
I just think that it's going to be a big annoying problem for the next couple of days.
Sorry.
How cement and broken glove, then it will get all dirty.
Play be careful with that, okay?
This is
Like, I
why.
want you to put that down.
This is why you always wear gloves when you're working,
No.
because
Or
that
you
would
get
have
cut in
been
your finger.
really, really bad if I hadn't been wearing gloves.
I can't believe that cut through the gloves.
Sliced right through it. I can't believe it.
Crazy.
What happened though?
I picked up a tape measure.
A tape measure.
Can you believe it?
That's ridiculous.
So stupid. It's like I would almost feel better if I had been hurt with something that was
Well,
not
I'm
so
just
stupid.
glad. I was like, I thought maybe you chopped your finger off.
That's what I was thinking too.
You're using the angle grinder today, so I'm glad it was the tape measure, not an angle grinder.
Oh, you still want to help anything? I have to wear my clean shoes. Daddy, you're making the room even smaller.
All right, I'm gonna clean up and then let's go home, okay?
So I think one thing that we can all agree on is the importance of sleep. It gives you good energy and focus and just the ability to get through the day. I've always struggled with getting good sleep, and when I lay down for bed at night, my mind just races and it's really hard for me to get settled in. But for the last month, I have been trying Beam's Dream Powder, and it's been a game changer. This is Beam's hot chocolate mix that helps you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. It is packed full of all natural ingredients, including magnesium, melatonin, reishi that help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. The best part is it has no added sugar and it actually tastes delicious. We have been trying the cinnamon cocoa flavor, which is absolutely delicious, and this bag is actually almost empty, so I'm really excited about trying some of the other flavors they have. You can get these in CBD or non-CBD. They have things like chocolate peanut butter, which I'm really excited to try.
So if I can interrupt, I actually don't struggle with falling asleep. I fall asleep immediately and will sleep all night long, not to brag.
Yeah,
but
right.
what happens is I wake up feeling terrible and unrested. And I've actually been individually taking all of these, not all of them, a couple of these ingredients, the magnesium and the melatonin. But what I like about this is it's a great proprietary blend of all of those and more. And it's a hot chocolate. So
Yeah, it's really
very
relaxing.
and a great thing to have right before bed.
So if you want to try out Beam for yourself, you can subscribe now and save 20%. You can also use our coupon code or scan this QR code and save an additional 15% and also get this really cool free frother, which leads you to save up to 35%. Plus, you can pause, cancel, skip, or change flavors at any time, so it's really risk-free. Thank you so much to Beam for sponsoring today's video. So we have had a problem with Asian wasps on our property. If you haven't heard of them, they are an invasive species of wasp that actually each one can kill 1,000 honeybees very quickly. And it's a really, really big problem that needs to be taken care of. These honeybees have no way to defend themselves, so it's actually really, really dangerous for the ecosystem.
So a lot of countries in Europe, I know from talking to the newbies, at least in Portugal, if you have a nest of Asian hornets, Asian wasps, you can call the local authorities. They will send out basically a SWAT team all suited up with the proper equipment because they are very dangerous. They have about 20 times the venom of an average wasp, and they can kill humans. So you do have to be careful. It's not something that you want to take care of yourself. But they don't do that, at least in this part of Italy. We try to call the authorities, and they didn't really seem to acknowledge it as a problem. So I turned to YouTube. And I always find if you want to find the best information, you need to go to the source. So the Asian hornets are from Japan. So I actually Googled in Japan, used Google Translate to type in Japanese to find Japanese blogs of how to get rid of them. And it turns out mouse traps are the best way to get rid of them, which I find to be fascinating. So what you do is you actually put the mouse traps, the glue traps, right at the edge of the nest, which happens to be on the exterior of the house here. They've actually dug into the mud and created a large tunnel back inside of the stones. And then when they come home and land on that trap, they actually release a pheromone that sends a signal to all of the other Asian hornets that says, come help me. So in a matter of minutes, all of the hornets come out of the nest and land in the glue trap and get stuck. And within about 5 minutes, the entire colony is stuck. And it's kind of a barbaric process, so I didn't film it. But then after everyone is stuck, I took the hornet spray and sprayed them to kill them quickly.